Hello, and welcome to this video on the New York State Museum located in Albany, New York. The New York State Museum has art, prehistoric and historic artifacts showcasing New York's cultural and natural development. Operated by New York State Education Department's Office of Cultural Education, it's the oldest and largest state museum in the U.S. It's a 10-story, 1.5 million square foot building that houses the New York State Archives and New York State Library. My video is only going to cover a fraction of all the displays at this museum. Some early New York history displays. The Cohoes Mastodon was discovered in 1866 near the Cohoe Falls on the Mohawk River. From skeletal evidence, it had been in poor health and died a natural death. Skeleton marks on the carcass show it was found by Native American hunters and butchered for food. It stood 8.5 feet high at the shoulder and was about 15 feet long and weighed between 800 to 8,000 to 10,000 pounds. The 17th century Dutch recognized the area of Albany as a prime place for trade. The Hudson and Mohawk rivers provided a corridor to the interior of the continent and was abundant in resources. Beaver pelts were a valuable commodity. Pelts were sent to the Netherlands to fur processors in Russia and then to France or England where they were made into warm hats and clothing. Those finished products were then exported around the world. A global trading network facilitated the production and distribution of beaver felt garments. The fur trade was a profitable venture, but it was just one of many Dutch industries. Free trade was a founding principle of the Dutch Republic, and as its commercial empire expanded during the 1600s, so did the standard of living among Dutch citizens. Amsterdam merchants fulfilled the prosperous Dutch citizenry's desire for luxury goods. The Calvin Signal Tower, like this one, were built at a height of 25 to 50 feet. The lower portion of the tower was open so that the surveying instruments could be placed directly over the marker at the station's center. Distant observers could easily locate the distinctive structures and stations centered within them. Next, we'll talk about the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal celebrates its 200th year anniversary this year in 2025. The Erie Canal connected the Hudson River to Lake Erie and was completed in 1825. It was the first navigable waterway connecting the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, vastly reducing the cost of transporting people and goods across the Appalachian Mountains. The Erie Canal accelerated the settlement of the Great Lakes region, the westward expansion of the United States, and the economic ascendancy of New York State. It was the nation's first superhighway. It was first proposed in the 1780s with a formal survey conducted in 1808. The New York State Legislature authorized construction in 1817. Its lead supporter was New York Governor DeWitt Clinton, and political opponents of the canal denigrated the project as Clinton's folly and Clinton's big ditch. Nonetheless, the canal saw quick success upon opening in October 26, 1825, with a toll revenue covering the state's construction debt within the first year of operation. It gave New York City a strong advantage over all other U.S. ports and brought major growth to canal cities such as Albany, Utica, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. The Erie Canal was a landmark civil engineering achievement. The 360-mile or 584-kilometer canal was the second longest canal after the Grand Canal in China. Initially 4 feet or 12 meters wide and 4 feet or 1.2 meters deep, the canal was expanded several times. From 1905 to 1918, the barge canal was built in half, and half the original route was abandoned. The modern barge canal measures 351 miles long, 120 feet wide, 12 feet deep, and has 34 locks, including the Waterford Flight, the steepest locks in the U.S. When leaving the canal, boats must also traverse the Black Rock Lock to reach the Lake Erie or the Troy Federal Lock to reach the tidal Hudson. The overall elevation difference is 565 feet or 172 meters. The Erie Canal's peak year was 1855 when 33,000 commercial shipments took place. It continued to be competitive with railroads until about 1902 when tolls were abolished and commercial traffic declined heavily in the later half of the 20th century due to competition from trucking. And the 1959 opening of the larger St. Lawrence Seaway, the canal's last regularly scheduled hauler, and ended service in 1994. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the early 20th century automobiles and also talk about the subway system. The portable steam engine, forest and agriculture demanded physical labor. Human and animal muscle was supplemented in 1850 by a portable steam. In the early 20th century, steam began to give way to gasoline engines and electric motors for sawing wood and threshing grain. This 7-horsepower engine was built in 1890 by the Watertown Steam Engine Company. It was drawn by horses to and from a work site and also produced stationary and self-propelled engines. Wood or coal in the firebox at the rear of the machine heated water to steam and the boiler, and it pushed a piston and connecting rod back and forth, and those were attached to a saw, thresher, or other implement. The Pierce Arrow motor car was shown here is the Type 43 car made by a motor car company in Buffalo, New York. This is shown the 1931 model, and 160 of them were produced at a cost of $2,995 to purchase, and that would be $42,900 in 2010 dollars. The company, which was active from 1903 to 1938, specialized in high-end luxury cars like the Type 43. However, Pierce Arrow's refusal to produce a lower-end car forced the company to close its doors in 1938 during the Great Depression. Taxis provided a useful means of transportation for New York City, an experience for tourists, and an income for the cabbie. Since 1897, the introduction of the early electric cabs in New York City, taxi service has been an integral part of the transportation network of the city that never sleeps. The 1910 Sears Roebuck and Company entered the automobile field with its 14-horsepower Sears motor buggy, and the company's popular mail-order catalog was distributed to homes across the country. With its broad reach, it was essentially the Amazon.com of its day. The motor buggy was designed to be lightweight, easy to drive, and inexpensive. In 1910, Sears changed the name to the Sears Automobile and produced 6 models with prices ranging from $370 to $495. The Model K sold for $475 and featured fenders, a top, side curtains, running boards, and a storm front cover. By 1912, the company discontinued the line, however, but in the 5 years, they produced 3,500 cars. The 1921 Franklin 9B Runabout had a wood frame, aluminum body, and air-cooled engine, distinguishing it from the Franklin Runabout manufactured in Syracuse, New York. Next, we'll cover the New York City subway system. New York City's first official subway system opened in October 27, 1904. It's one of the oldest public transit systems and one of the most used, and the one with the second most stations after the Beijing subway system, with 472 stations in operation. The system operates 24/7 every day of the year throughout most of its year. And the New York City subway system is the busiest rapid transit system in both the Western Hemisphere and the Western world, as well as the 9th busiest rapid transit rail system in the world. The subway has carried 2.04 billion passengers up to 2024, and the record for daily ridership was set on October 29th in 2015 at 6.2 million riders. This system is also one of the world's longest, consisting of 248 miles or 399 kilometers of routes. Next, we'll cover their display on skyscrapers. By the 1880s, Lower Manhattan's 6 to 8-story masonry buildings were dangerously overloaded with workers. During the second half of the 19th century, new materials, tools, and processes began to solve this problem. Steel framework construction and safe elevators permitted taller buildings on the small and expensive island. Here we see the Flatiron building, which was originally the Fuller Building, and it opened on October 1st, 1902. The Fuller Company sold the building in 1925 to an investment company, and the Flatiron building's facade is divided vertically into 3 sections, primarily to the components of a classical column. The 3-story base is clad with limestone, while the upper stories are clad with glazed terracotta. The building's steel frame, designed by structural engineer firm Purdy and Henderson, was intended to withstand 4 times the maximum wind force of the area. It's been called one of the most iconic skyscrapers and quintessential symbol of New York City. It anchors the south end of Madison Square and the north end of the Ladies' Mile Historic District. The neighborhood around it is called the Flatiron District. The building was designated a New York City landmark in 1966 and was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in 1979 and was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1989 and a sentiment analysis in 2023 found that it was the fourth most loved building in the United States. The Empire State Building became the super building and man's mightiest monument. Originally, the top of the tower was a beacon and mooring mast for dirigibles. Today, the tower's 222-foot extension bears the broadcast antenna for all the metropolitan television stations and many FM radio stations. 2 observation decks allow viewing the region as far as 80 miles. The building is 1/4 of a mile high, having observatories on the 86th floor and on the 102nd floor. The Empire State Building is an Art Deco style super tall skyscraper in Midtown South neighborhood of Manhattan, and it was designed by Shreve, Lamb, and Harmon and built from 1930 to 1931. Next, we'll hit 9/11. The extremely heavy and strong steel columns needed to build the World Trade Center towers and ensure their stability proved disastrous to surrounding structures. When the Twin Towers collapsed, falling debris destroyed other buildings within the World Trade Center complex and claimed 2,973 lives. Falling debris destroyed other buildings within the World Trade Center complex, and many nearby buildings suffered collateral damage or full collapse. The St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church was the only building not in the complex that suffered a full collapse because of the falling World Trade Center debris. Other 20th century steel frame structures outside the complex sustained considerable damage but remained standing. So next we'll hit some other interesting displays, and again, this video only covers a fraction of all the displays at the museum. Carousels have been around for centuries. Originally, carousels referred to competitions for trained cavalry riders. Soldiers on horseback would aim jousting equipment at a target, metal rings suspended from a rotating pole. By the 1700s, Europeans began designing wooden amusement rides reminiscent of those earlier training games, retaining the name carousel. As amusement parks began to appear, American carousel makers created innovative and whimsical designs. The golden age of carousel building was from 1870 to 1940. In 1969, the Children's Television Workshop, now known as Sesame Workshop, set out to create a new program for preschool-aged children, and Sesame Street was the result. The program was a huge success. By 1978, an estimated 9.3 million households regularly watched and learned. By focusing on basic math and reading skills, Sesame Street was credited with raising the IQ norms of preschoolers nationwide. It also promoted cultural values of tolerance and respect. It celebrated ethnic, racial, and language differences of the various citizenry of its neighborhood, and is still going strong and is one of the longest-running television shows in history. We often feel earthquakes on the surface, but they originate below us at a point called the hypocenter. The closer the hypocenter is to the surface, the stronger the earthquake will be felt. Very strong quakes with deep hypocenters might not be felt at all, while weaker quakes near the surface can cause significant damage. The epicenter is the point directly above the hypocenter and on the surface and is used to mark the earthquake's location on a map. They also had a display about fungus and mushrooms, and New York has a large research arm dedicated to that. Next, we'll hit the area minerals of New York, and again, this is only a small slice of, there are many, many displays in this area. Over millions of years, sediments were deposited together with volcanic rocks into the shallow sea that cover the eastern part of the proto-North America. The tectonic orogeny, about 450 million years ago, an island arc collided with the American continent. The collision subjected the rocks to high pressures and to temperatures of 700 degrees Celsius and metamorphized them into crystalline schists that became Manhattan Island. Temperature and pressure reorganized the rocks and generated many mineral species, including garnet, feldspar, chrysoberyl, tourmaline, and after the bedrock relaxed, some of the earlier minerals that replaced them were replaced by stable minerals such as calcite, stilbite, apophyllite, and arsenite. There are over 129 minerals in New York City. The Bessemer process is an industrial method for mass-producing steel from molten pig iron by blowing air through it to remove impurities, primarily carbon. It was developed by Sir Henry Bessemer in 1856, and this process significantly lowered the cost of steel production and played a vital role in the Industrial Revolution. It was the key invention that facilitated the development of railroads and skyscrapers. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this quick video on the Museum of the State of New York. And again, I covered only a small fraction of all of the displays that were there, and I hope you get a chance to visit it yourself. It's well worth the visit. Please check out some of my other tour videos, and have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you very much for watching.